Our feature film for this week is the movie Psycho, which is from 1960 and which is directed by the really well-known and prominent British and then American film director Alfred Hitchcock. Alfred Hitchcock is one of the towering greats in terms of film directors from Hollywood's golden age or Hollywood's studio era. This is Mr. Hitchcock here. He is a figure that you perhaps have seen pictures of before, which is why I include his picture here, because you may recognize him either by name or by sight. He was a director that was very well known amongst film audiences in the era in which he was making movies between the 1940s and the 1960s, and is a director that many people, such as yourselves who were not alive then, still recognize because he was in quite a few episodes of his television program that played in the 1950s and 1960s, and which is sometimes still shown on television today, called Alfred Hitchcock Presents. And so he was a very well-known director, partially because of appearing on his own television program, and partially because of his very droll and witty manner that he had as he introduced episodes of that series. His silhouette is very famous as well, or was at one time, because he would step in front of the camera, backlit, so that all you could see is his silhouette, and that sort of became his trademark as the host of his television series, and then to a certain extent his trademark as a film director and just as a person, his silhouette or his profile that you can see here. As I said, Hitchcock was well known for his horror and suspense stories that he had in his television program. In his television program, he did not direct most of the episodes. He did direct a few of them, but mainly he was the host and the producer of the television series. But the television series had stories or featured stories that was a different story every week, not an ongoing series with the same characters, but a different short film every week that had a story with some sort of a horror or suspense theme. And his films were of the same type. His films are sometimes referred to as horror films, but suspense really is sort of the more appropriate label to give them. Suspense thrillers. And he became very well known for a particular kind of suspense story. And we'll see in Psycho a little bit of the flavor of what Hitchcock's films were like and the sorts of things that they're known for. As I said, he was probably the best known, certainly amongst the few best known movie directors in this period of the 1940s through the 1960s and through the 70s as well. He died in 1980 and directed his last movie in 1976. Psycho itself was, in many respects, a groundbreaking film. It was groundbreaking in the respect of what happens to the main character in the movie, or the character that we believe throughout the first portion of the movie is going to be the main character. It was groundbreaking as well in terms of the pushing of the boundaries of sex and violence in the early 1960s, or at the turn from the 1950s into the 1960s and the year 1960. There is one scene that is a fairly graphic portrayal of violence, which will look tame to us now. I don't want you to expect that it's going to be graphic by the standards of graphic violence that we see in many films and have seen in many films in the present day. But in the context of Hollywood cinema and American cinema in the year 1960, it was a very graphic and unprecedented portrayal of violence. Same thing with sex. There's sort of a casual attitude related to sex, especially as it's portrayed in the opening scene of the movie. Again, not something that is going to be shocking to us today, but at the time that the film came out in 1960, is something that was pushing the boundaries of what was allowed or what had previously been portrayed in movies. Now, Psycho is considered to be sort of the great granddaddy of contemporary slasher movies. Movies like a little bit in the past now, like Friday the 13th movies and Halloween movies, and more recently, movies like the Saw movies and graphically violent sorts of movies like that. Anthony Perkins and Janet Leigh, who you see pictured here, are the two stars of the movie. Janet Leigh stars as a woman named Marion Crane, who uh, ends up getting in some trouble and checks into the motel run by Anthony Perkins' character, Norman Bates. John Gavin plays Sam Loomis. The character Sam Loomis is Marion's boyfriend, and Lila Crane is a character that is the sister of Marion Crane. And they both become concerned about Marion after she's gotten into the trouble that she's gotten into. And Detective Arbogast, played by Martin Balsam, is a detective who is investigating the trouble that Marion Crane has gotten herself into. What to watch for in Psycho? Our topic this week, of course, is editing, and so I want you to watch for the use of continuity editing throughout the film. Continuity editing, as a type of editing and as a collection of editing techniques, is found in just about every movie that you watch and that we'll watch in this class. And so Psycho, just because of that, has got lots of different examples of continuity editing and lots of different examples of various techniques of continuity editing that we've been studying this week. And so I want you to just try and pay attention to how the editing works and the different techniques of continuity editing throughout the film, especially the respects in which uh, how editing creates the illusion of continuous time and space. Pay attention to, across multiple shots that are edited together, how continuous time and continuous space is created, or the illusion of that is created by virtue of joining one shot to another shot in the movie. I want you to, as you're watching the film, select one particular scene, and you can just do this sort of as you're going along watching the movie and take note of it. Pick one film and analyze it for its continuity editing in special degree, which might involve going back and looking at that scene again, or maybe a couple more times after you're done with the screening of the whole movie, and just analyze that particular scene that you've chosen well so that you understand it and can use any information that you have taken note of in your analysis in the follow-up activities after you're finished with the screening. You should pay attention to this scene, this very famous scene in Psycho called the shower scene. It has a form of film editing and the use of some film editing techniques that is a little different than continuity editing, but it is a sequence that is not very long, only about a minute, maybe a minute and a half in length, but has a great many high number of shots that are edited together very rapidly to create certain moods and affect a certain narrative turn in what is going on in the story in Psycho. So watch for that scene and pay attention. And that might also be a scene that you want to take a look at again once or twice after you've finished watching the movie, just to sort of see how it works. And depending on the version of Psycho that you're watching, it may even have a special feature if it's a DVD that has some analysis of the shower scene separately from the movie. And I want to encourage you and have you begin to think about the style of movies with all of the different things that we've been studying combined with one another. So just because we've been studying editing this week does not mean that you shouldn't also pay attention to the mise-en-scène and the cinematography in editing. So try to pay attention to those aspects of film style as well, because our goal is to, by the time we're done looking at and studying all of the different elements of style, to be able to look at editing, mise-en-scène, cinematography, and next week's topic, film sound, all at the same time, and analyze a scene from a movie or an entire movie according to all of those different elements of style at the same time, and to watch how all of the different elements of film style work together to create particular effects on us as viewers.